Hello drivers! It's time to dive into a new Ubisoft game currently in closed beta with a specific goal in mind: finding driver Easter eggs. We are talking about xDefiant, the tactical shooter featuring agents from various Ubisoft IPs with their own gameplay style. You can also access the closed beta by watching some streamers on Twitch, but I got my access through the creators program, so thank you Ubisoft. I was able to play a dozen games and try out the different agents available in the closed beta, so I will also give you my opinion on the game and its mechanics. Let's go! I've read many comparisons with Call of Duty, but the abilities of each faction remind me more of Overwatch, especially with the game modes available, one of which is Escort, which has the same name in Overwatch, which also features characters with special abilities. On the other hand, I agree that the gunplay is more familiar to Call of Duty, and I wish the weapons were more original, as they are exactly what you will find in a modern shooter, perhaps a little too realistic, when the game will benefit from more inventiveness to distinguish itself from the competition. The abilities part, in particular, didn't feel obligatory to use in order to win a fight or a match, perhaps because players aren't yet familiar with their potential, but they do feel more distracting than helpful, as they don't give you much of an advantage on the battlefield, at least in the situation I've encountered in my few games. At the moment, you are much more reliant on being the first to fire, rather than using your ability to increase your chances of winning such an encounter. As I said, this could change with more mastery and new ability additions or changes, as the game is designed to be a typical live service experience. I hope that new content will bring new game modes, as the ones available are Escort and 3 variations of objective-based modes. Even though there is no classic team match mode at the moment, I felt in my games that most people were playing for the kill-death ratio rather than the objective, which led to our team winning by capturing more objectives, because the other team was more interested in killing players in other parts of the map. As with the gunplay and abilities section, I would like to see more creativity to make xDefiant unique with something really fresh, rather than putting together well-known ideas, even though this could work with the right amount of balancing, which also requires a lot of thought. Maybe I'm too influenced by the online game modes of Driver San Francisco, which completely changed the way multiplayer driving could be done with the shift, but I'm sure there are still ways to do the same with a first-person shooter. If not, the game still has potential thanks to the idea of bringing together different IPs from their portfolio, which is a trend in the kind of metaverse and Web3 worlds we are heading towards, but it's also the Mario Kart or Smash Bros philosophy applied to first-person shooter with Ubisoft IPs. In that sense, I'm expecting a lot more Ubisoft IPs to join the faction roosters in the coming months and seasons, according to the developers' roadmap. Which brings us to the part you've been waiting for, the driver Easter eggs. In this case, the map that interested me the most was Coney Island, which is reminiscent of the DLC for The Division 2 that was released 3 years ago, because it has a lot of references to the Driver series. In fact, this map in xDefiant reused many assets from The Division 2, including the arcade machine room, while The Division 2 had machines from other Ubisoft IPs such as Tom Clancy, War in Conflict, Just Dance or For Honor. They are not present in xDefiant. On the other hand, Riders Republic, released last year, now has its own arcade machine. And of course, the Driver arcade machine is back, and there are a lot of them all over the rooms. It's interesting because, as I said, For Honor World in Conflict didn't return, but Far Cry Blood Dragon and Driver did, along with the new Riders Republic, which wasn't released at the time of the Coney Island DLC. The difference is that the arcade machines do not have the Driver San Francisco theme like they did in The Division 2, but you can still see a Driver San Francisco artwork on the top, while Driver Renegade artwork is used for the side. The seats still have the white strip of Tanner jacket, and his name is on the number plate at the bottom. In that sense, they are exactly the same props as in The Division 2. There is also a poster with the Driver logo and Renegade artwork, which was also in The Division 2, but this time it's more prominently displayed on the outside of the arcade room, so you can't miss it. On the other hand, the stunt driver part of Coney Island seems to be completely missing, even in the decorative part of the map's surroundings, while you can see the Vertigo attraction or the carousel in xDefiant. I would have loved to play around the Challenger-like car, and the fake tracks would have made for a great improvised shooting range. Speaking of the Challenger, it is still in xDefiant according to the very first gameplay reveal, but I believe the map is not in the closed beta roster, so I was not able to locate it. With the return of Far Cry Blood Dragon arcade machine and posters, it makes sense as one of the playable factions is in fact Far Cry agents. Now we know that each season of xDefiant will add a new faction, starting with Dedsec from Watch Dogs when the game launches, but we don't know which Ubisoft IPs will be next. The most obvious choices will be Rainbow Six or other IPs from the Tom Clancy brands, but Driver could also be a good fit in some kind of cops and law enforcement type of faction. There are a lot of NYPC cars in the Times Square map, but they don't seem to be assets from previous Driver games. A San Francisco map featuring Lombard Street with the Golden Gate Bridge in the background would also be fantastic, but I think it will be more inspired by Watch Dogs 2 than Driver San Francisco, and the detail in the Watch Dogs 2 environments was amazing. The development team behind xDefiant is also based in San Francisco, so perhaps we could see a map set there in the future, which could easily be linked to a previous Ubisoft game, as every map in xDefiant pays homage to or is inspired by levels from other Ubisoft IPs. For the moment, The Division is clearly the most present, which can be explained by the fact that xDefiant was supposed to be Tom Clancy only based, before a soft reboot of the concept opened it to other brands such as Far Cry or Watch Dogs. And maybe Driver. Well, I'm obviously dreaming, but for sure adding the license to the game will make you want to play again. So if the goal is to attract players or try to get them back into the game with their post-launch content, it's a good way to touch the player community in a different way than usual, while providing new content for every player. Time will tell which IPs will be added, and in the meantime, thanks for watching, and thanks to my Driver faction called the Red Ravers. DriverDimension.com, French Contact, Neurosyn, Stekon on YouTube, Paul Lanois, Mute, David Autosport and Denis Frontier. You can join the Red Driver faction and access exclusive rewards by clicking on the link in the description. In any case, see you soon, drivers!